So I was on AFTV on the Forever Arsenal podcast chatting to Turkish, Lee and Jordan and having a real moan about the £80 I spent on the new Arsenal shirt. It wasn't even the actual main home shirt, you know, the gold one. It's really nice. I'll chuck it on the thumbnail. It was the goalkeeper shirt, really nice as well. Credit to Arsenal, they actually gave you 10% off for all members and stuff. But I kept thinking to myself, and we were talking about it in the show, I was thinking £80 for the replica shirt, not even the authentic one. By the way, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail because some of you might be wondering what I mean by the authentic and replica. But basically, I thought £80. 2 years ago it was £60. Last year it was 70, but credit again, Arsenal said that £10 of the shirt was going to the Arsenal Foundation, so fine. So it was basically 60 for the shirt and 10 to the Arsenal Foundation. But now we're at the point where it's £80 football shirt. And by the way, I'm not having to go at Arsenal. I don't know who does the pricing. I don't know if it's Arsenal, I don't know if it's Adidas. I'm not really directing those shots anywhere in particular. And by the way, this is like all clubs and manufacturers are charging a ridiculous amount for football shirts these days. I thought, so imagine you're an adult. Imagine you've got kids and you're buying yourself a nice £80 shirt. Not even the real one, by the way, not even the authentic one. You're just buying yourself the £80 shirt. And then you're buying maybe your kid who wears adult sizes, another £80 shirt. That's £160. And then maybe you've got a younger kid who's wearing a child's, you know, another 55, whatever. You're spending £200, over £200. Just to wear your club colours, just to wear the new shirt that they brought out, which by the way, they're bringing out every year now. Remember, there was a point where it was brought out every 2 years, a home shirt. Maybe they changed the away kit, maybe they bring out one new shirt. And now it's relentless. Now, listen, we understand that, you know, there is a demand for this as well, and I get that. But in my frustration on Forever Arsenal, I was sort of, you know, talking about how ridiculous it was. I want to just take a step back on this video and actually look at everything. Look at why these decisions are made. Understand a little bit the economics behind football shirts, you know, merchandise and stuff like that. Why the business kind of runs the way it does, and basically come to a conclusion about whether I'm right to be as outraged as I am. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit here. So first and foremost, there's two things that annoy me. Firstly, is that the replica shirt is even £80. That, you know, to get an official football club top in some way, shape or form, you are spending, apologies, I've got hiccups, you are spending about £80 anyway. So then you get the authentic shirts. This is what really winds me up, especially this year more than any other. Now, authentic shirts are no new thing. They've actually been around for about 5-6 years. Remember, Arsenal had them with Puma. Now, Puma shirts used to be quite tight fitted. They were really quite yeah, they were very, very kind of cozy. And they'd sell the authentic shirt for about £100, and the other shirt would be about £50 to £60 or whatever. So you're paying quite a bit more, but what you're getting was the match-worn shirt that the players would wear for every game. And you know what? I didn't buy it, but it was just, you know, it was kind of cool. It was the kind of thing that maybe if you really love that shirt, you'd spend that little bit more. But now it's going a step too far where, A, there's not a massive price difference between the replica and the authentic. Some might say that's a good thing. I don't. Only about £30 in it. But the replica shirt doesn't have some of the key detailings. I'm talking about Arsenal here, but this might be true of other clubs and other shirts as well. It doesn't have key detailings from the authentic shirt. So the authentic shirt, which is the whole kit, is there to represent the Invincibles and the anniversary, 20 years since the Invincibles. It's got markings of the wins and draws from that 38 game unbeaten season that go down the shirt right here. And Arsenal don't have that on the replica shirt. That for me is a joke. That you have taken a really big part of why that shirt is loved and removed it from one of the main products, which is already £80. So I mean, that in itself already winds me up. And quite frankly, whether football shirts should be 30 quid or 80 quid or whatever, the point is you should have key details like that on a shirt no matter what. The authentic one should be about the fit and maybe certain materials and technology that goes into certain material, maybe the way the crest is printed on or whatever, but certainly not actual key details missing from a shirt. That's annoying. But I wanted to look at other things, and other sort of three things I think we have to consider when it comes to the price of shirts going up. Now, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I remember sort of walking through whatever it was, the Arsenal store or JD Sports, whatever it be, and I see the Arsenal shirt and I'd remember it, £30. I remember it was like a thing, you know, £30 would get me the new Pokemon game, it would get me the new Arsenal shirt, £30 was the magic number. Now we know that it's gone up since then to 40 to 50, and we actually had probably a period of maybe 50, £60 shirts or whatever. Now it's jumped quite a lot, and I think there are three things we really need to consider. Firstly, inflation. I can only speak for here in the UK, but we know that economic struggles and all that, inflation is a thing. cool, prices are going to go up. I can't go to the supermarket and not walked away shocked at how much I spent on hardly anything. That is just the nature of the economy and the world we live in right now. Secondly, I think it's important to remember that clubs are still recuperating revenue from things like COVID, the pandemic, having to play a whole year and more without full stadium full of fans. We know that matchday revenue is an important thing, and so maybe they're trying to recoup in other ways, and that's important to remember. But also that there's a growing expectation from fans. I think year on year, especially in this world of social media, whatever, there is a growing demand for signings, big players coming in, for results, for win instantly. Patience isn't there as much, and I don't think maybe minds are as open as they used to be. So with all that, there is a pressure for clubs to deliver in certain ways, and so I think you could argue there's a little bit of a cool, I'm not saying this is how clubs think, but maybe there's a little bit of cool. You want the best players, you want this, you want that. Well, merchandise is going to go up a little bit, and by the way, we're going to make more of it, and this is all very important. But I wanted to look at how impactful merchandise, shirt sales, all that actually was to football clubs, because I've got some stuff here as it's, in terms of how often have we heard, and there's a really good TIFO video, by the way, that I recommend everyone going to watch. I'll put it in the link in the description below. There's a really good video on, do shirt sales pay for footballers themselves? So for example, they say, Paul Pogba's £89 million fee when he joined Man United, well, that's paid back in shirt sales immediately. Actually, no. Very interesting video by TIFO, they break it down brilliantly. But essentially, the way club deals work with shirt sponsors, whether it be Nike, Adidas, whoever, is typically there'll be an upfront payment made by the kit manufacturer, and then there'll be a commission that's taken from clubs. Now that commission is very, very small. That commission might be 7.5%, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And typically that actually doesn't even come into effect until the first million shirts are sold. Now to get to 1 million, that's actually quite difficult. When I was looking at Arsenal shirt sales, they rarely hit 1 million. They might be at the 700,000 to 900,000 mark. Maybe Man United will get above 1 million. In fact, I think they do. And a few select other clubs. So it's not exactly like a threshold you get to that easily, and therefore you're loading up on commission. So what Arsenal and other clubs, a lot of them are making money off when it comes to shirt sales, is actually that upfront payment that they get anyway. So I think it's really important to understand that, because it's not a case of, well, this year Arsenal want to sign Declan Rice, therefore we need to sell a load of shirts and we need to up it to £80 because it's going to, help fund the transfer kitty. It doesn't work like that. That's never going to be the case. So it will almost definitely be based on things like supply and demand will be a big thing. I think things like inflation, that will all be playing a part. Not so much clubs wanting to do what they can to kind of keep the revenues coming up, and therefore they've got the money they need for everything else. Secondly, when it actually comes to these total revenues, by the way, they're not as big as people think. Shirt sales don't contribute as massively as you would think to ultimate club revenue, and there's things like match days to consider, there's things like broadcast revenue, there's sales from other players and other resources, whatever it be, sponsorship, all that, they will make a massive part. So trying to understand all that makes me think, okay, shirt sales, I don't think there's a sort of a direct correlation between shirt sales and sort of players or whatever. So this whole idea that sort of fans are more demanding, therefore maybe there's a correlation, I don't think there's anything in that. But it did really get me thinking a lot about this whole shirt sale thing, and whether, it is an outrage that we are at this kind of £80 mark or whatever, where you just get a replica shirt and it's not even the full thing with all the full details. And to conclude, yeah, I do think it's a joke. I do think it's gone too far. I do think that, yes, there is inflation and things like that in the world, but it's not proportionate. The shirt today shouldn't be £20 more expensive than it was 2 years ago. Inflation, that doesn't reflect inflation, at least from my brief understanding or my brief research and understanding of economics. I came up with 3 points sort of as my main conclusion to all this. Yes, it's too much. Authentic shirts need to be addressed. They shouldn't be a almost completely new product where you get kind of almost like that's the complete version. Like really, if you want the complete version, you need the £110 one. The £80 one shouldn't be incomplete. But the third thing that I think clubs really need to remember is that these shirts, these kits, they are The fact that they're worn by fans around the world, they're representing the colours and they're promoting the brand. Yes, these football clubs are massive, massive institutions, but they still need their fans to wear the shirts. They still need their fans to buy the shirts and wear the colours and support them. And, you know, supply, demand, all that, you know, can they get to a price point where actually fans go, you know what, I don't fancy it? I think I'm at that point. There was a point maybe a few years ago where I'd have bought all 3 shirts. Now I'm just kind of picking my 1 or 2 favourites because I just don't think it's worth it. I'm put off by it, and I think a lot of people are. But I think they need to be very careful. They don't sort of get to a point where it's not even people just choosing, yeah, no, actually, I don't want to spend that money on a shirt. But actually as well, people just can't afford it. And then actually your club colours, your branding, a new shirt, you know, it's not being represented around the world like you want it to be. Now look, they'll have all the research and data on whether any of that is affected. I don't know. All I do know is £80 for a football shirt, and it's not even the full thing. That's not okay. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, by the way, because you get notifications when I've uploaded and all that. And I'd really love for all of you who've watched this video to see more of my content. So big thank you for joining me this far, and yeah, see you very soon.